Now, I have a question for you. Are you feeling bien dans ta peau, as the French would say? It means literally good in your skin, but I guess a better translation is, do you feel happy with yourself? I know, even the sun can play a big role in how you feel, just like the weather in general, so let's brighten up the screen colour. Now, many people consult Google when it comes to happiness, over 80 million searches at the last count, and a word that often comes up in the results is stress, or more precisely how to eliminate it to be happy. Exercise is high on the list. Some experts recommend writing down all your problems, but we are going to open the pathway to happiness with a brain-based solution, validated from the world of neuroscience. So let's begin with a very short bit of theory on this vital object, weighing in at just under 2 kilos. When we visualize the brain, we usually see the cortex, the outer wrinkly layer where we do our higher order thinking, what Agatha Christie's Detective Poirot calls the little grey cells. But they cannot always be trusted because they're not always in charge. Much, much deeper in the brain are the parts responsible for our survival systems and our emotions, and they run the show more often than you'd think. Combining their roles, these older, in evolutionary terms, and more primitive parts of the brain provide fight-or-flight protection, so when seeing a poisonous snake, for example, first you're scared, and yet almost instantaneously you decide to run, though in practical terms it's probably the snake in the office you're running from. It is this combination of our large cortex, or new brain, with the older parts, again in evolutionary terms, that makes us human, and the number of connections is massive, greater than the number of stars in the Milky Way. This flow of information within the brain connects up and down towards the spinal cord, front to back, and right to left within the new brain, the cortex. Up and down connecting rational conscious thought with emotions, fight or flight responses, and also interestingly decision-making in the older parts of the brain. Left and right connecting the two hemispheres of the brain, and also front to back, linking the large frontal lobes with the sensory and speech-related areas towards the back of the brain. Why is this connectivity so important? Well, think of the complete brain as an iceberg, the conscious part above the waterline corresponding to our new brain, the part beneath the water corresponding to the older elements. Our conscious thought, above the waterline, is where we do most of our thinking, thoughts, wants and needs. The subconscious older brain is the seat of our behaviour and emotions. The conscious brain is at least partly accessible, the subconscious hardly reachable, except perhaps in our dreams, but there is a constant dialogue going on between the two. Yet if you take the lid off and examine the conscious part, the new brain, we find that each of us possesses one area of special strength, a physical region where the electrons flow more easily and the process of thinking requires less effort. Equally, there's at least one region of the brain where thinking requires you to use a lot more effort. Use it too much and it leads to, you guessed it, stress. And however many times you Google happiness, if you're in a job or a relationship which is bad for your brain, you won't be able to improve the situation. But you can learn coping strategies to deal with this stress if you take a brain-based approach and leverage the power of your natural strength. Think of your natural brain strength as a special talent, just like having physical strength, or the ability to play an instrument, or being sporty, or whatever. You do possess a talent, but you might not be sure where these natural talents lie. At their core, they will reside in one of these 4 segments: the creative, imaginative frontal right, the logical, prioritizing frontal left, the dependable and detail-oriented basal left, or the harmonizing, encouraging basal right. If you play to your strengths, you'll be energized and happier. If you spend too much time in your weaker areas, this can lead to stress with a capital S. Of course, stress can relate to personal finance, the workplace, sad events in your life. I even know someone who is genuinely stressed by his pets at home. Stress can also be stifling. Imagine you're a creative personality who's working at McDonald's, mass-producing the same burgers day in, day out. Your creative contribution will not be appreciated. Or maybe you spend your days updating spreadsheets when in reality you're more of a people person. Life can become very frustrating. You may feel like screaming, but mostly you just hold it in and show a brave face to the world. But stress levels accumulate, leading to symptoms such as head and neck aches, a lack of concentration, sleep problems, irritability. Because stress is effectively overheating your brain. Reduce stress and your brain runs cool and efficient, using less oxygen, which is also good news for other parts of your body which require lots of oxygen to perform efficiently, like your stomach, which needs the greatest amount of oxygen. Stress causes hormones like adrenaline, cortisol and norepinephrine to course through your brain and body, which is fine if you really need to run away from a wild animal that might otherwise eat you for dinner, but experiencing this cocktail of hormones repetitively at the office or at home is bad news, and in recent studies has even been linked to the early onset of Alzheimer's. But there is a pathway to feeling bien dans ta peau and coping with life's daily problems. In the words of the bard, "To thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day, thou canst not then be false to any man." Or as I'd put it, getting to know yourself and being true to yourself are the first steps in feeling at ease with yourself. Your natural brain talent is your greatest strength and your greatest source of energy. By identifying that strength and relating it to others, you promote understanding and you enable cooperation. In summary, identifying and applying your brain strength helps you and those you work with lower stress levels, make better decisions, and feel better in your skin, or dans ta peau. If you'd like to know more about how to discover your natural brain strength and apply these talents, just contact James at Lazy Horses Consulting.